So these guys are really taking a big risk by jumping right back into another big fight. Listen, somebody's got to lose, right? Unless we have a draw. But 2 losses in a row, back-to-back, that's really hard to come back from.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Boxing Scene's Top Stories, only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus. Remember to download the ProBox TV app, where apps are available to get the insights of our great world champions. We have Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and right near the beach, Showtime Sean Porter here on Top Stories. Well, the card of the Fury-Usyk rematch is going to be spectacular with a big fight at 154 with Israil Madrimov going up against Serhii Bohachuk. Madrimov with that narrow loss to Terence Crawford and Bohachuk suffering a loss to Vergil Ortiz Jr. All right, Paulie, let's talk about this matchup here. This is a meaningful fight at 154, which we all know is a very stacked division. And to me, it feels like maybe an eliminator. What does it say about Madrimov and Bohachuk that they're willing to get into the ring against each other after high-profile losses?
I think it says a lot as far as the character of the fighters. You know, they are chasing the best fights, the biggest fights. They're chasing the most difficult fights because they know the most difficult fights lead to championship fights. You know, so these in Madrimov's case, you know, he's been a world champion. He just lost it to Terence Crawford at 154 pounds. He's trying to jump right back in the mix. Bohachuk also, you know, lost a very good, one of the most entertaining fights of the year against Vergil Ortiz, a fight that really could have went either way. And he's not looking to take a soft touch coming back. You know, I've said this before, you know, Eastern fighters, they're built a little bit differently in that way. And I think that this benefits the sport. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, well, you know, if you don't preserve yourself, nobody takes care of you later. Yeah, I mean, that is a point to a degree. But there's another point in that you have to preserve the sport for the generations that come after us. And in order to preserve the sport for the generations that come after us, you need to create interest. And the only way you create interest is to continue to make the best fights possible. Otherwise, less money is invested in the sport, and the generations that come after us have nothing to live by going forward. So I really, really am high on these Eastern fighters for doing this, and Madrimov and Bohachuk are an example of that. You know, especially when you have in the West guys who don't come off losses, who continue to win, and yet they still fight sandwich makers. You know, that is a big, big difference to me. And I think in the interest of the sport, I think it's important that these kind of fights continue to happen. And if people lose competitively, and if people lose trying to continuously fight the best, and they've shown that they belong in the room. Madrimov and Bohachuk have shown that they belong in the room. They've beaten some pretty good fighters already. They've got a pedigree already. So it's not like, oh, they lose a fight at a big-time level. Because, you know, when you talk about, oh, a loss can't count against you, it depends on the kind of loss, and it depends on the kind of pedigree you've shown throughout your career. You know, if you're a guy who gets to this level and shows he doesn't belong at this level, obviously a loss has to count against you. You know, it's in the name of sport. But if you're a guy whose pedigree has shown time and again that you're of this level, be it through the amateurs and the pros, and you've shown that you can win at this level as well, well, then, yeah, then a loss shouldn't count as much against you, and you should be able to, you know, stay in the mix. And I love that these two guys are staying in the mix. They're fighting each other. And I hope that, you know, for the sake of the interest remaining, if there's another close competitive fight and the loser loses close competitive, remember, now there'll be 2 losses in a row. I hope he's not punished too badly. And that's why another reason why I like what's going on in Saudi with these fights being made.
Yeah, and Paulie, to your point about Eastern fighters, Madrimov is from Uzbekistan, Bohachuk from the Ukraine. All right, Chris, what do you make of this matchup here and how both fighters can kind of bounce back after high-profile losses?
I love this. I think this is a move in the right direction for boxing. You know, getting away from the you must be an undefeated fighter to be successful in this sport. And you have 2 guys who, they're not protecting their O's, obviously. They both have losses. But listen, taking 2 losses in a row, that's a real hit to your career. So these guys are really taking a big risk by jumping right back into another big fight. Listen, somebody's got to lose, right? Unless we have a draw. But 2 losses in a row, back-to-back, that's really hard to come back from. But again, like you said, Champ, to piggyback off what you said about how the performance goes, that really matters. My first loss, I lost to Manny Pacquiao. I had a really bad night, really poor performance. I jumped right back into a fight with Amir Khan. And I had a really good night that night. I thought I won that fight. A lot of people did. And that got me right back into contention. Because a lot of times taking 2 losses in a row, pretty much your career is done at the highest level. But if you show that you belong, like I did in that second fight against Amir Khan, you know, you can hang around. So I think in this fight, as long as these guys both perform and they put on a good show, I think that we're going to see both guys around. Because, listen, this division is deep, But these two guys are excellent, and they belong in that top 5 grouping when you're talking about 154-pounders. And I tip my hat to them. And yeah, maybe it's the fact that they're Eastern European. Maybe it's the fact that a guy like Madrimov is fast-tracking because of his big amateur background. Maybe it's a guy like Bohachuk who took a loss early in his career to a guy named Brandon Adams, who's actually been doing quite well on the outskirts of 154. He might be entering the mix pretty soon, too. And has been trying to battle back since then. Is willing to jump right back in, because at this point, it seems like for both of them, well, especially for Bohachuk, it's like, man, I gotta go after this now or just hang it up. So I like where their heads are at. I like the fact that we're being able to make these kind of fights happen. And guess what? Who's helping this happen? It's the Riyadh season fights. It's Turki Al-Sheikh putting out the money to let these guys take these chances, because at the end of the day, they're gonna get paid and they're gonna have a big platform. So I like the shift that we're seeing, that you don't have to have an O at the end of your record in order to be on these major cards. So this is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, Sean, what do you make of this matchup between Madrimov and Bohachuk, their attitudes, and the fact that they both need to win in order to kind of keep themselves relevant at 154?
Yeah, I think something that's maybe overlooked in boxing is that we box ourselves into a certain level, into a certain position. And I personally believe that we box ourselves out of that position. How do we box ourselves out of that position? It's the loss has to be a big loss. If that loss isn't a big loss, you're still at that position. You just fought somebody that was at that position that was better than you. I think that we have to box ourselves out of that position. How do you do that? A knockout loss. A loss where you look like you're just 2 steps, 3 steps behind that guy, which we all can see. Like, he's not on that level anymore. You box your way to becoming elite, and you decide whether or not you're elite, not the boxing world. That's what the boxing world has done time and time again. I think what Riyadh this season is doing now is determining these guys are elite, so we're making this match. And I think that other guys should learn from this right now and jump on this bandwagon of fighting against the elite. You'll get paid, you'll get taken care of, and you'll have a opportunity to fight again. I love this matchup straight up and down. Styles make fights. We got Bohachuk. He'll be coming straight forward. I think the thing we didn't expect from Madrimov in this fight against Crawford, we didn't expect him to sit back and wait as long as he did. We expected him to be first, come forward with that jab a lot more. So I think, if anything, we know 1 or 2 things are going to happen in this fight with Bohachuk. They're either going to be car crashes coming at each other, or you'll get Madrimov fighting on the back foot and Bohachuk taking it to him. I think either way, however this fight plays out, it's going to be entertaining top to bottom. For them to put this on that Saudi card underneath Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk was just spot on, perfect, and I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating matchup. All right, Paulie, I know we're a month away, so right now, if you had to pick someone to win this fight, who would you pick to win, and why do you like that?
I think I slightly edge to Madrimov. You know, I think he's a little bit more technical, a little bit more versatile. But I'm curious to see if all the pressure Bohachuk brings can undo all that technical stuff. I'm also confident, though, in the fact that Madrimov, being that has the experience that he has, he can also handle a lot of the pressure. If you pressure a guy, you know, there's sometimes you get a real slickster and you wonder, can he handle a lot of pressure? I'm not to say Madrimov is just a slickster. He's a solid boxer, but I lean towards Madrimov. I have a feeling he's going to be able to at least deal with the pressure of Bohachuk, even if it, of course, will become uncomfortable, because Bohachuk is of the level of, of world-class fighters.
Yeah, Chris, who do you like in this fight as of right now between Madrimov and Bohachuk?
I'm all in on Madrimov. I think he carries himself like a fighter who's still undefeated. You know, he lost by a hair to the best fighter of our generation. And I believe he believes that. I think he believes he won that fight. So he's coming into this fight as if he's an undefeated fighter. I've seen Bohachuk lose twice now. I've seen him get knocked out by Brandon Adams, and I've seen him lose a very close split decision to Virgil Ortiz. And as you said, Sean, Champ, those guys are meeting head to head, and I saw him lose that. But Madrimov, as you said, Champ, is so much more versatile.
Was he winning the Brandon Adams fight?
He was.
So he's got a loss and a knockout where he got caught in a fight he was winning.
Yep. And
then a fight with Ortiz where, like Madrimov, he has an argument to say he won that fight too.
No, absolutely.
But
I think Madrimov, potentially behind Terence Crawford, is the best guy in this division, and it's a very tough division. I'm very high on Madrimov.
Yeah, I was ringside when Brandon Adams knocked out Serhii Bohachuk, and I truly did not expect him to come back. I think he's had about 6 or 7 fights since that knockout.
All KOs,
and he's actually gotten better fight by fight, and that's a really good thing, especially going against Madrimov. You guys both are going for Madrimov. My only thing, and I feel the same. I feel he's more versatile. I feel like he's got more in his arsenal. I feel like he's a little more polished, for the second words, than Bohachuk. But he fought with a very slow pace, and I know why. He was trying to counterpuncher, and it was just that who's going to counter the counter the whole fight, and it ended up being somewhat of a dry, very less uneventful fight than we expected it to be. I can't imagine him coming out like that again. However, if he tries to fight on the back foot and he's not able to time Bohachuk enough to clock him, Bohachuk's work rate could get him over this one. Man, ask me in the 2 rounds in who's going to win the fight. I don't know.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, that's why I always say you reserve the right to change your opinion based on new information, as we have a month left before that December 21st fight. That is going to be a great co-main event, Bohachuk and Madrimov, and of course in support of Fury and Usyk, that rematch. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. And of course, we will always keep you up to date and get some new information here on Top Stories. I'd like to remind you to scan the QR code, like, subscribe, and leave your comments on our YouTube channel. Download the ProBox TV app where apps are available. You can watch the next edition of the Contender Series, December 7th. We are back in Ireland for a great fight card. I am George DeMatteis. This is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
ProBox TV Contender Series. On December 7th, look for an all-out Irish war as Dylan the Real Deal Moran battles Tyrone the Mighty Celt McKenna at the top of a stacked ProBox-worthy card.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.